9 UK tin tomato brands you should never buy again. It started, as many British kitchen disasters do, on a wet Tuesday evening in Manchester. The rain tapped against the windows. The kettle had just clicked off. Sarah stood in her small but tidy kitchen, staring at an open tin of tomatoes that didn't look quite right. She had planned a simple spaghetti bolognese, nothing fancy. Just minced beef, garlic, onions, a splash of red wine, and a tin of tomatoes to bring it all together. But the moment she poured the contents into the pan, she paused. The tomatoes were pale, watery, floating in a thin, almost pink liquid. There were hard yellow cores in several pieces. And the smell? Slightly metallic. She frowned. Maybe it's just this batch, she muttered. It wasn't. That night, Sarah began what would turn into a 6-month investigation into the worst tin tomato brands on UK supermarket shelves, the ones that ruin sauces, dilute flavour, and quietly cost families more than they realise. This is that story. The hidden truth about cheap tin tomatoes in the UK. Tin tomatoes are a kitchen staple. From Sheffield to Southampton, they sit quietly in cupboards waiting to become hearty stews, creamy curries, rich pasta sauces, homemade soups, shakshuka breakfasts. But not all tins are created equal. Some are packed at peak ripeness. Others? Harvested too early. Overprocessed. Bulked out with watery juice. Or worse, filled with tomatoes grown for yield, not flavor. And when you buy the wrong tin, you don't just lose money. You lose flavor. You lose texture. You lose trust. How the investigation began after that disappointing dinner, Sarah did something most of us don't. She kept the tin. She wrote down the brand. The next week, she bought 3 different supermarket-owned brand tins. She cooked the same simple tomato sauce recipe each time, no herbs, no sugar, no extras. Just olive oil, garlic, and tomatoes. The differences shocked her. Some sauces reduced beautifully into thick, rich bases. Others stayed thin, even after 40 minutes of simmering. Some were deep red and fragrant. Others tasted flat, sour, slightly bitter. That's when she decided she would test them all. The testing criteria before naming names, she created strict rules: appearance straight from the tin, color, consistency, amount of juice versus flesh, smell fresh and sweet, or metallic and sharp. Reduction test: 30-minute simmer, did it thicken naturally? Or remain watery? Taste test: no added sugar, naturally sweet? Overly acidic? Bland? Seed core count: excess seeds and hard cores often signal lower grade processing. After testing over 20 widely available UK supermarket brands, 9 consistently ranked at the bottom. And these are the ones she says you should think twice about buying again. 1. The too watery to save brand. This brand looked promising on the shelf, bright packaging, Italian-style branding. But once opened, the contents were almost half liquid. After 30 minutes of simmering? Still thin. The tomatoes broke down into pale mush with little depth of flavor. Even after adding salt, the sauce tasted diluted. Verdict: you're paying for water. 2. The metallic aftertaste offender. This one smelled fine at first. But once heated, a sharp metallic tang became noticeable. It lingered on the tongue long after tasting. Whether from processing, lining issues, or low-quality fruit, it made the final dish taste slightly tinny. No amount of herbs could fully mask it. Verdict: ruins delicate sauces. 3. The sour surprise. Some tomatoes are naturally acidic, that's normal. But this brand required 2 teaspoons of sugar just to balance the flavor. Even then, it remained sharp. In dishes like chili or curry, the acidity overwhelmed spices rather than blending smoothly. Verdict: too acidic to use without heavy adjustment. 4. The yellow core problem. When you pour tomatoes into a pan and see hard yellow centers in multiple pieces, that's usually a sign of lower grade sorting. This brand had more cores than expected. They didn't break down during cooking. Texture-wise, it felt uneven and cheap. Verdict: poor quality control. 5. The pale lifeless tin color tells a story. Rich tomatoes are deep red, almost ruby-like. This brand? Faded pink. The sauce looked washed out even after reducing. Taste matched the color, flat, uninspiring. Verdict: lacks natural sweetness. 6. The too many seeds. Brand seeds aren't bad, but excessive seeds often mean less careful processing. This tin contained noticeably more seeds than competitors. The texture became slightly gritty once cooked. Verdict: low refinement. 7. The disappearing flavor. This one wasn't offensive. It was worse. It was forgettable. After simmering, the flavor barely existed. It required heavy seasoning, tomato paste, and herbs to become usable. Verdict: adds bulk, not flavor. 8. The overly processed texture instead of whole plum tomatoes. This brand looked almost pre-mashed. The pieces were inconsistent, almost broken before opening. The final sauce felt overhandled, less fresh, more factory. Verdict: lacks natural structure. 9. The budget trap. Cheap doesn't always mean bad. But this ultra-budget option failed every category: thin consistency, pale color, high acidity, minimal sweetness. After cooking, the yield was significantly lower because so much water had to evaporate. What seemed like a bargain ended up costing more in time and added ingredients. Verdict: false economy. What makes a good tin tomato? After months of testing, Sarah found patterns among the best performers: deep red color, thick juice, not watery, naturally sweet aroma, balanced acidity, minimal hard cores, fewer loose seeds. Better tins required less sugar, less cooking time, and fewer fixes. They respected your recipe. The real cost of a bad tin. A bad tin doesn't just cost 45p. It costs extra cooking time, extra sugar, extra seasoning, extra frustration. Multiply that across a year of cooking. It adds up. And more importantly, it changes how your food tastes. The supermarket illusion: bright labels, Italian flags, words like authentic, vine-ripened, sun-soaked. But marketing doesn't equal flavor. Some own-brand premium ranges actually outperformed flashy Italian-style tins. Lesson? Read with your taste buds, not your eyes. The emotional side of food. During her testing, Sarah realized something deeper. Food isn't just fuel. It's comfort. It's Sunday family dinners. It's quick weeknight meals after long shifts. It's homemade soup when someone's ill. When the base ingredient fails, the dish fails. And that feels personal. So should you never buy them again? Never is a strong word. But if you consistently find you're adding lots of sugar, you're reducing for 45+ minutes, your sauce tastes thin, it might not be your cooking. It might be the tin. A simple home test you can try tonight: open your current brand. Pour it into a sieve over a bowl. If excessive watery liquid drains out immediately, that's your first clue. Then simmer without adding sugar. Taste after 20 minutes. If it tastes balanced already, you've likely found a decent brand. If it tastes sharp and weak, you know what to do next time. Final thoughts: the humble tin of tomatoes doesn't get much attention. But it should. It's the backbone of countless British meals. Choosing wisely means better flavor, less effort, happier dinners. Next time you're in Tesco, Sainsbury's, Asda, Aldi, or Lidl, don't just grab the cheapest tin. Flip it over. Check the consistency through the lid. Trust your past experience. Because once you've tasted the difference, you'll never look at tin tomatoes the same way again. By the time Sarah reached week 12 of her kitchen experiment, her cupboard looked like a small supermarket aisle. Stacks of tins. Different price points. Different labels. Different promises. She had already identified the 9 worst performing categories in Part 1. But Part 2 would reveal something even more surprising. Sometimes the problem isn't just taste. It's transparency. The product of Italy's illusion. One rainy Saturday afternoon, Sarah began reading the fine print. She noticed something curious. Several tins had Italian flags splashed boldly across the front. Words like Italian recipe, Mediterranean style, inspired by Italy, but on the back, packed in the EU. Or even more vague, produced for a UK retailer. Only a few clearly stated the actual growing region of the tomatoes. She learned that many tomatoes sold in the UK are imported in bulk, processed in large facilities, and repackaged under supermarket own brand labels. Italian-sounding branding doesn't always mean Italian-grown tomatoes. And that matters, because climate, soil, and harvesting methods affect flavor. The budget versus premium experiment to test price versus quality, Sarah created 3 categories: under 50p, 50p, 90p, £1 plus. She expected the most expensive tins to dominate. They didn't. Some mid-range supermarket own brand options performed surprisingly well. Meanwhile, one premium branded tin costing nearly double had excess watery juice, high acidity, weak tomato aroma. Price alone wasn't the answer. Consistency was. The 5-ingredient sauce test for her final evaluation round, Sarah simplified everything. No onions. No garlic. No herbs. Just olive oil. Salt the tomatoes. If the tomatoes were good, the sauce would shine. If not, there would be nowhere to hide. The results were revealing. 3 of the previously criticized brands completely collapsed under this test. Thin. Sharp. Unbalanced. One even required a spoonful of tomato puree to deepen the color. That's when she realized something important. Some tins aren't meant to stand alone. They rely on you to fix them. Texture tells the truth. In the best-performing tins, whole plum tomatoes held their shape when poured out. They broke down naturally during cooking. In the worst tins, tomatoes were already fragmented. Almost crushed. Soft in an unnatural way. Overprocessing reduces texture integrity. And texture equals mouth-feel. A proper tomato sauce should feel rich and velvety, not thin or grainy. The water weight problem. One evening, Sarah decided to measure drained weight. She poured each tin into a sieve and weighed the solids. The results varied more than expected. Some budget tins had significantly less tomato flesh compared to liquid. That means you're paying for water. And when you simmer longer to reduce it, you're spending extra gas or electricity, extra time, extra effort, all for a cheap tin. False savings. A conversation with a chef. Curious if it was just her palate, Sarah spoke to a friend who worked in a Manchester Italian restaurant. His answer was simple: good tomatoes taste sweet before you add anything. He explained that professional kitchens often use higher quality plum tomatoes because they reduce faster, they have natural sweetness, they don't require sugar adjustments. He admitted many home cooks unknowingly struggle with sauces because of low-grade tins. It's not you, he told her. It's the tomatoes. The acid test. Acidity isn't always bad. It gives brightness. But excessive acidity overwhelms dishes. When she tested pH strips out of curiosity, she noticed minor differences, but taste perception varied dramatically. Some tins felt harsh on the tongue. Others were balanced and rounded. Natural ripeness matters more than numbers. Why some brands consistently underperform. After months of cooking, tasting, and comparing, patterns emerged among the worst tins: early harvest tomatoes, less natural sugar, higher water ratio, more processing damage, inconsistent sorting, hard cores left inside, lack of transparency about origin. It wasn't necessarily dangerous. Just disappointing. The psychological effect. Something unexpected happened during the experiment. When Sarah cooked with better tomatoes, she felt more confident. Her sauces thickened faster. The color looked richer. The kitchen smelled sweeter. It changed her mood. Food quality effects. Experience. And small upgrades create big differences. That emergency dinner realization. One night, exhausted after work, she grabbed one of the lower-ranked tins without thinking. She made a quick pasta. The sauce never quite thickened. She added sugar, salt, herbs. It was acceptable, but not memorable. That's when it clicked. On busy nights, we rely on pantry staples. If those staples aren't good, dinner becomes a struggle. The turning point: after 20+ tins tested, Sarah reduced her cupboard to just 3 brands she trusted. The rest? Donated or discarded. Her cooking became easier, quicker, more consistent. She didn't need to fix sauces anymore. The bigger question: why do some brands get away with lower quality? Because tinned tomatoes are rarely tasted on their own. They're hidden in chili con carne, lasagna, curry soup. Strong flavors mask weakness. But once you test them alone, the truth becomes obvious. Should you throw yours out? Not necessarily. But try this: cook one batch with your usual brand. Cook another with a different one. Same recipe. Same ingredients. Side by side. Taste carefully. You might be surprised. Final warning: signs to watch for. If your current tinned tomatoes consistently show these signs, it might be time to switch. Pale color straight from the tin, strong metallic smell, excessive watery liquid, multiple hard yellow cores, need for lots of sugar to balance flavor. These are not signs of premium fruit. They're signs of cost cutting. The real lesson: the lesson isn't about being fancy. It's about understanding your base ingredients. Tinned tomatoes form the foundation of countless UK meals. And foundations matter. If the base is weak, the dish struggles. If the base is strong, everything else shines.